it's just an example. Purdue losing to Fresno State is okay. We can still win the Big Ten West. Me,
Billy Napier gets fired. I'm just kidding.
hey, really the best time of the year. I will be seated watching Red Zone for 7 hours on Sunday. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to an episode of Backyard Banter. Johnny James Tanner. I said it yesterday in our group chat. I don't know if I've ever been more excited for an episode than this one right here. We have complete week one reaction or overreaction, depending on what team you are. We're going to dip our toe into some more NFL divisions and maybe a little baseball talk because the Cubs gave you guys some faith for a second. Let's put it like that until their debacle last night. But we're going to start in college football, obviously. That's where all the big news is right now. And we're going to do a unique thing kind of this year where it's easy to talk about the losers, but we're going to make sure we talk about the winners first. So we're going to start, just because I was at the game, we're going to start with the game I was at, and we're going to talk about Florida, Miami. So Tanner, I will go to you first. What was your biggest takeaway with Miami during that game?
I really have two takeaways that were kind of just glaring to me, like as I was watching the game. First and foremost, they have a quarterback. They have a legit quarterback. Cam Ward is very good. We knew he was very good coming in. It was one of those things that, like, how long would it take him to be ready and look like an elite quarterback for Miami? We knew it would happen at some point this season. He was ready to go. He was ready to go week one. I was impressed with. I haven't been able to watch him a ton. He's one of those guys that, like, you've always knew about him, you've heard about him, good stats and whatnot. But, playing at Incarnate Word in Washington State, you never really get to watch him a lot. I was very impressed with some of the arm angles he can make on those throws. Just kind of the Patrick Mahomes-like thing. Obviously, he's not Patrick Mahomes. But, like, when you could change your arm angle like that, you can make so many throws, especially in that RPO that they run, and get the ball out in space. And that kind of leads into my next takeaway. They have legitimate talent everywhere on that offense, even on defense, but they have playmakers everywhere. I think Restrepo, like, he's a stud. Like, that guy, he looks like a guy that can play in the NFL after the season for a lot of years, which I was not expecting out of him. I mean, I've heard of him. I've watched him play past couple years. He looked very, very good to me. They have so many weapons everywhere. I think they had a transfer that he ended up actually dropping a pass from Restrepo that Restrepo threw on that kind of end around. But they had another receiver transfer that was pretty good. I think Miami is legit, and I was a little bit skeptical of them preseason, hence why I picked NC State ahead of them in the ACC. But all my question marks with Miami, obviously it's week one, a lot of season left, but all my question marks, like, I don't know why I questioned them after watching it. I was very impressed with Miami. A lot of talent. They have a quarterback. This could be the year for the Canes.
Yeah, I think last year we had so many episodes where we talked about Cristobal and just under fire, just the mistakes that he made last season, the mistakes the players made that is an impact on him and his resume. And Tanner hit it right on the head. He went out. They knew they needed to transfer quarterback. Cam Ward was available, and Cam Ward is a stud. The Joel Klatt show, I was listening to that on my way home yesterday. By the way, there's not a better podcast in college football. Like, it gets you so fired. The Joel Klatt show, especially because he's so big on Notre Dame.
Feed me Josh Pate over Joel Klatt every day.
Joel Klatt just gets me so fired up. So, because he's Notre Dame. But anyway, he said it perfectly. Cam Ward is a stud, right? And the thing about Miami is you look at the ACC, like, what they just have to play Miami's. It is officially Miami's conference now. Florida State's 0-2. Obviously, Clemson drops one to Georgia, but you look at Miami and you're like, they're running away with the ACC, and it's week one. It's literally week one. I picked Florida State 3 weeks ago. I hopped back on the Miami train, and Lord, they looked really good against Florida. I know, Johnny was at the game. The videos were unreal. Obviously, I know you're upset with the Gators, so I'll let you get into that. But Cam Ward, for sure. Tanner hit it right at the head. The key with Miami this season is they have a quarterback who can absolutely ball, and Cam Ward's legit. So.
Yeah, I agree. Cam Ward made some unreal plays. And you got the whole Cam Ward. You got the dumb turnover And really in the first quarter, he missed a lot of throws. There's a lot of throws that he should have made there behind. Restrepo had this unreal throw going back across his body and made a hands catch. I was like, that's big time. Like that's a big time play. What impressed me most about Miami, man, was how good they were up front. Like I knew their offense line was good, but Miami is a school that has invested in NIL, and you see that working right now. Cam Ward, I don't know this for sure. Cam Ward's a $2 million player, 1.5 million. Like that's what you pay Cam Ward to come take him out from being a day 3 draft pick and put him on your team. And you get 4 touchdowns, and he ran for freaking 50 on the first drive alone. So that's really impressive, Miami. And you guys know I've been on Miami from the beginning. I picked them to win the ACC when we did the ACC prediction way back in I think June. I picked them. I would have picked them against Florida if it wasn't illegal for my fandom to pick another Florida team over Florida. And so I'm really, really impressed with Miami. I mean, Damian Martinez is good. Their backup run back Fletcher, I think is better than him, just kind of to show you the depth. Their defense line is legit. I still have major questions about their secondary because I think Graham Mertz missed 2 touchdown passes in the game. And I know for a fact Graham Mertz missed 2 touchdown passes because it was right in front of me, the ones that he missed. So, and that kind of leads me into Florida. Um, I'll kind of get on my soapbox for a second. I've been following Gator football for a while now to kind of get to the people that I listen to that I know aren't like the big market, only care about whatever. Like these guys are in the program, they have real kind of contacts in the program. And they were saying that right side of the offense line for Florida is a major, major issue. When I edit this, I'm going to put in a video of the Gators' right side of the offense line and just so people back home can see it. But Florida's right tackle got a 0 grade on Pro Football Focus. I don't even know how that's possible. Like, you know how bad you have to be to get a 0 grade? If you guys noticed, Miami ended up with like 3 sacks, 8 TFLs. Florida had 1 sack, two TFLs. That's where the game was won. It was right there. I mean, you guys know how long have I been saying I'm very concerned about the Gator pass rush? Yeah, I've been saying it for more than a month now. And Florida didn't have anyone to win one-on-one. Cam Ward's a really good player, but you could be really good when you have 8 seconds to throw, which he had legitimately every time. Um, I literally had to write down some of these to literally because I wasn't mad after the game because when you're at a Gator game and everyone sings "We Are the Boys" and won't back down from Tom Petty goes on like regardless of what the score is, that's all like that's so cool. It kind of takes you back into like reality. But this I don't know. So I'm gonna ask you guys this: did it look like when you guys watched on TV? Pure chaos would like that Florida would sub on defense like almost every play. So I was shout out Frank Shields. So he got his tickets. In a football game, the higher you up you are, it's almost better because you can see everything. And we were 50 rows up, and I could see everything. And especially on defense, how late they were to line up for stuff. We're talking about Miami's about to snap the ball, and we got 2 guys aren't covered on the left side and we're running over there. The cornerbacks are going like this, like they don't know what play they're in. That happened like 10 times. And you go on offense, it's just stuff as simple as we come out of a TV timeout and Florida calls a timeout because they don't know what play they're in on offense. Like that is awful. I don't even know how that happens. I told you guys I'm a fan of Napier. I love his message, but my God, he has no idea what is
He's
going
gone.
on right now.
I firmly believe that game right there and that embarrassment. I really think he's going to have to go out there and upset the big dogs, right, to be able to keep his job. I truthfully
I
believe it.
I think it is deeper than that. I think Scott Strickland, the AD, needs to go. He got bailed out with Todd Golden being a good coach because outside of that, he does not have a good hire at all. There's stuff that I was even made aware of after I was on Twitter recently. There was scandal in the women's basketball program under him, scandal in other things over other him because of the people he brought in, and now he is 0 for 3 on coaching hires, and unless a miracle comes about.
Well,
Um,
they should a job like Florida should hire itself.
that's
Like
what I'm
that,
saying.
it,
I
it
mean,
should be. It's a team. It's a name. It's a brand that guys should literally be itching for. And so it's not about interviewing somebody. It's about do 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 they deserve to come coach Florida football? And it shouldn't, they should literally like hire themselves. And so that's why I mentioned the Lane Kiffin
Yeah.
situation, right?
That's a
Like
name I'm seeing a lot on Twitter, man.
I'm
They
telling you, like
love
I
Lane
saw I
Kiffin.
saw it months ago and I said it on the pod because I'm like, hey, we might as well put it on the pod now, maybe make myself look super smart. But at the same time, it's like those are the kind of guys that have established themselves that move up and they coach at Florida. But here's the thing, if they don't do it soon, maybe coaching at Ole Miss is better.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
it,
we'll see. The resource of Florida is still better for now,
oh
but
yeah, for sure.
but to your point, people want to coach at Florida. Florida turned down Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
They both were interested in coming to Florida.
Yeah.
Like, and do you know who turned them down? Scott Strickland.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is just a massive gaffe.
Yeah.
I mean, even say what you want about Brian Kelly. He went to the SEC championship in year one at LSU. And if he had a competent defense last year, he probably goes back.
Yeah.
And then when you say he lost to USC, that was a great game. That was a coin flip game.
That's a good
That
game.
Yeah.
we'll,
That's a good
we'll
game.
get into it later.
I wanted to say real quick, I know it's probably frustrating for you, Johnny. How fitting is it that now for a year in our intro is me saying
And
Billy
Billy
Napier's
Napier
going to get
fired.
fired?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we're getting so close to that
Yeah.
moment. And it's one of those
Yeah.
things that's like, how has it not happened yet? To me,
Yeah.
that's my question is how has it not happened?
I'll tell you what, because you need someone to fall on the sword for this season that's about to come through. And look, there's overreacting to week one, and then there's Florida making the same mistakes that they did last year. After preaching, we have competitive depth on the offense line. After preaching, we have competitive depth on the defense line. Like, no, you don't. I was there. You don't. You clearly don't. You don't have a single guy that can win one-on-one on defense. Not a single one. The right side of the offense line looked like you pulled them out of the school of the deaf and blind. It is unbelievable that you're the
Did.
University of Florida and that you are lacking in NIL. You're not up to standard in NIL because you can't go get the two five-star linemen that Miami got because your NIL wasn't good enough. You can't go out and get a better quarterback than Graham Mertz because your NIL wasn't good enough. You can't go out and get a good enough transfer safety because your NIL was not good enough. Florida is a top 10 college football program ever. And their NIL is not up to standard. And Billy Napier was too rigid to change their portal technique his first season and has bit them in the ass to now. And they're not good enough to go compete in the SEC right now. And to ever say that about the University of Florida is a shame. And it should never be said, just strictly based off the resources that are there. So that's all I have to say on Florida. And no, that's not true. I have one more thing that I know is it's coaching. I don't think they even have the best players on the field. That like Elijah Badger, number 6, wide receiver transfer from Arizona State. He was a post-spring transfer, so he wasn't there in the spring, only in the summer. He's Florida's second best playmaker outside of Trey Wilson. And if you guys watched the game, he had the beautiful back shoulder catch in the first quarter. And then he did not play until midway through the third quarter. And I'm seeing us trot out these guys on defense. I'm seeing us trot out RJ Moten, who's a transfer from Michigan, who had to transfer from safety to linebacker in the first place to even kind of get snaps. And you're taking out Shamar James, who's going to be a second round pick at worst. That's what the kind of talent he is. And so that's where I look and it's like I like look, I follow the Florida football program. I know the two deep on the roster. And I'm like, what are we doing like with this? And Napier goes to the press conference and he just looks like a fool up there, can't even open a freaking water bottle. And then he's calling out the Florida fan base. Well, guess what, Billy? I left with 13 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and I've been to 100 Florida games, and I've never left that early. And Miami could have put up 60 if they wanted to. They let their foot off the gas, and it was freaking embarrassing. And to be honest, the crowd didn't show up. There was probably 2 times where the crowd was really into it. Us as Gator Nation didn't do our part to help either. There's say whatever you want, but like we've talked about Florida for too long. But it is notable because of how just comically bad they were after hearing all offseason that they were going to be better. But um, we'll move on to another game, and honestly, we'll go to a more happy part of this podcast because it's time to talk about Notre Dame. Notre Dame goes into Kyle Field, and honestly, shout out to the Cybertruck. I watched the entire game. Notre Dame was better the entire game from snap one to the last snap. James, we'll go to you first. Obviously, you're the Notre Dame fan. You weren't able to lock in till the fourth quarter, but what did you see?
Well, I'm so happy. I really am. It's like when I saw this game on the schedule, it's nerve-wracking, right? It's like an SEC in SEC culture. I mean, it's a night game on Kyle Field. Like,
It was
good,
rocking.
good
Yeah.
God, right? I mean, like, I don't remember the number. It was a lot of people that watched the game too. Like, it was a big game.
That was
If you were
like
there,
0.6 million, I think.
I think
Big
it
number.
might, yeah, something like that. I saw that today. I forgot the number. But anyway, when you look at this game, and we talked about it in the preview, it was all about Riley Leonard for me. It was, does Notre Dame now have a competent quarterback? Because last year Sam Hartman was okay, but these kinds of games I never trusted him in. Heck, I remember watching the Duke Notre Dame game at Tanner's house, and I didn't think Sam Hartman had it, and that was a big game for Notre Dame at the time against a good Duke team last year. So you look at this team, and Riley Leonard for me was the question because the defense was going to be good. Now, did I think they were going to fly around the way they did? No. But good God, that defense that Notre Dame has put on the field is unreal. It's relentless, it's quick. Like, I don't even think Benjamin Morrison had his best game. And he still looked like I mean, arguably one of the best corners in the game.
Notre Dame's got
And
three of them. They got
exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you take Benjamin Morrison, and sure, he's on one side of the field. You want to target the other side? Fine. You're going to get a little bit worse of a player, but they're still unreal. And you look at Notre Dame in the history, and like just in the last 5 years, and I've told you guys this whole thing, they've always had a good secondary and they've always had a good offensive line. Now, the first half, the offensive line was not very good. They weren't getting any movement up there. Love was not really able to get anywhere. Honestly, our best runs were with Riley Leonard, right? And then in the second half, I don't know what happened in that locker room, but that offensive line got some movement. And Jeremiah Love was able to run all over the field. And I tell you what, after last year with Estime, who was more of an inside runner, watching Love get to the outside, it's like, who's going to catch him? I mean, Jeremiah Love is quick. But then you look at right back to Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard by no means put up the greatest game of his career. By no means did he statistically play a great football game. But when it came down to the moment and when the game was tight, for most of that game, he was just a guy that had, I think it was his 20th career start. Like, he'd been there, he's done that. He's probably not as nervous, right? And so that's what I like to see. I like to see a quarterback that can handle duress. I like a team that Marcus Freeman's a hell of a coach. I get fired up still every time I watch the TikTok, Instagram of him telling Kyle Field to get up, like, get loud, bring it on, because this win, you might look at this A&M team, and I'm a little now down on them. I Wiegman, however you say his last name,
big man.
he's gonna he's gonna get better, but he was god awful. He was god awful. I want to take credit for that. Hopefully Notre Dame was the reason for that. But at the same time, I don't think it is. I think he's just bad. But this is a Texas A&M team that's going to win some games. So hopefully it continues to look like a better win week after week. But if you're a Notre Dame fan, this win has to fire you up, because obviously it's not a secret that Notre Dame's strength of schedule is not there. So if you were to lost this game, no matter if you go 11-1, the questions still remain. But now you have this win. And again, I mentioned the Joel Klatt show before. There is a clear path for Notre Dame to go 12-0. Truthfully, there's a clear path. Okay. Tanner's toughest game, he thinks, is going to be Purdue in 2 weeks, right? We got Northern Illinois this week. My dad's going to his first Notre Dame football game ever. So shout out to my
That's
dad
awesome.
for
Shout out Papa Keck.
he's gonna be like the Rudy film where he walks and his dad walks up and he's like, "This is the most beautiful place in the world." And then Purdue, and then you got USC, and we'll get into that game later. A little, maybe USC's legit, and then you got Florida State, which again, good God, what's going on there?
We're about to get into Florida State. I'll
Look at
tell you
Notre
that.
Dame. I think there's a clear path to 12-0, at worst 11-1. I've been saying that, at worst 11-1, but now you take care of A&M, and I think we didn't even play our best offensive football. So it's got to fire up. If you're a Notre Dame fan, it's got to fire you up. It's a hell of a win, and I'm so excited to watch. Honestly, I don't care that we play NIU next week. I'm fired up. I hope we go out there and 60 ball them, and that's my team too. Like, that's my hometown. So.
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of really good points there for Notre Dame. I think that Notre Dame's secondary, first and foremost, really impressed with them. Wiegman, I believe, is how you say his name. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback, but coming into that game, his touchdown interception ratio in his career was 16-2. So that's pretty good. And Notre Dame really made him look lost out there. I don't think he's that bad. So I credit Notre Dame's secondary. I credit their defense. I knew Notre Dame's defense and secondary was going to be good. That's why coming into this game, I kind of said, I think I said it last week, it's going to be low scoring. And I think Notre Dame's going to find a way to win the game late. Well, that's what happened. And I'm not surprised because that Notre Dame defense, they can win games like that. And Riley Leonard in his first career game, or at first game at Notre Dame, I wasn't expecting him to come out and just light it up. And he didn't, but he made enough plays. And I think that's what we're going to see out of him all season long. I think he's a guy that Notre Dame hasn't had anybody like him really since Golson, I think was his name. That can make plays with his feet, like is a legitimate threat, dual threat quarterback to make plays both in the air and on the ground. And that's why I think Notre Dame's scary. I tell you what, I'm very excited for that Purdue game coming up, but I'm also very nervous because one thing Purdue did not do well last year is stop quarterbacks from scrambling and running. I mean, I think we gave up like 200 yards rushing to the Syracuse quarterback last year. So Riley Leonard has me very nervous because that's a problem. That is something that Purdue struggles with. And I think a lot of teams are going to see Riley Leonard making plays with his legs. And it doesn't even have to be with rushing yards. It's getting out of the pocket and improvising and extending a play, making a throw downfield, getting out of a sack. So I was impressed with Riley Leonard. I know he didn't light it up statistically, but that type of quarterback is something Notre Dame's had lacking in the last couple of years, and they have it. So Notre Dame, high ceiling for them this year. I said it preseason. I just because I don't like Notre Dame doesn't mean I'm going to not give them their flowers, not give them their respect. They deserve it. They're a hell of a team, and that was a great win. I agree with you, James.
I tell you this one more thing before Johnny, you get into it here is, that week 3 game, I remember going to the Purdue Illinois game last season, and I'm an Illinois fan, right? Like I support the mainly basketball, right? Because it's fun to be a Notre Dame football fan. I'm a dual fan, whatever. You can roast me for whatever. Well, I was so fired up for that Illinois Purdue game last season with Tanner. I can't imagine myself going to a Notre Dame Purdue game next week. I am like bouncing off the walls. Like I am so excited for this football game. And by golly, I hope we 50 ball you guys. I'm sorry, but I sure do because I don't want to stress it out. I want to go to the bathroom at halftime. Like, yeah, I'm wearing my Notre Dame stuff. Like, yeah, like it's pretty much over. And I hope it is, but it's probably not going to be watching Purdue play big teams. But I just had to point out there that I am so fired up for that game. So Johnny, go ahead, talk some stuff about Notre Dame. Come on.
But when you go to the bathroom at Purdue, you better be ready for there's no dividers. They really just got I don't know what it's called the long uh tube basically I guess what it is. But
The
Trap.
bathtubs.
yeah, there you go. I was rattled when I went to the bathroom because Florida, I guess, have enough money to put up some dividers. That's about all they
There
got.
we go.
So you guys basically all kind of hit on the head for Notre Dame. I kind of said it. I watched it, and even when it was 6-6, I was like, A&M's lucky this is 6-6.
Yeah.
Notre Dame is the better team. Their receivers couldn't separate when they could. Wigman almost missed every single one of his throws. They were behind. They were too far in front. They were low. I mean, there's some stuff where it's like week 1, they're going to get better. Like, for example, Notre Dame's offense. They don't look that good as week 1. It's going to get better. I've never been a fan of Connor Wigman. I think this isn't one of those cases. I think this is this is rough. The A&M goes to Florida week after next. After I'm pretty sure Stanford might be a point spread favorite over Florida this week, but then Florida gets.
No way. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me.
Of course they're not. And then Florida gets A&M, and I mean, you talk about pressure in that game, man. I mean, obviously it's going to be all-time high for Napier, but Mike Elko, you're going to start 1-2 your first year at A&M. It's still a top 10 talent roster, so I think that's things to really look into. Notre Dame had a true freshman start at left tackle, so you expect some bumps in the road in the first half, and they came out and dominated in the second half. And this is an A&M front that has 4 and 5 stars everywhere. It didn't matter. I mean, they were basically taking out the game in the second half. Notre Dame had multiple, I think, 3 or 4 20-plus yard runs, and they were gashing them. Obviously, they had the 47-yarder for a touchdown, and it was huge. So Those are kind of my main takeaways. You guys did a good job hitting kind of the rest of the key points, but like I said, some stuff is week one, like it's just week one, it'll get better. Some stuff for A&M, like receivers not being able to separate against high level corners, and Connor Wigman being inaccurate and only throwing for 100 yards, like that is atrocious. Throwing for 100 yards in a full football game, it's just not good enough. So but we'll get into another game now that we got our teams out of the way. We can kind of speed run through the rest of them. Georgia goes into the grave of the Georgia Dome at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and just runs over Clemson. For Georgia, they showed you about three different ways they can win. In the first half, they show that they can grind you out and just completely stomp on you, and showed you why they're probably going to be a top five offense. And in the second half, they came out and scored, I think it was 4 or 5 possessions, and Carson Beck really turned it on without his like 5 best running backs because they all got DUIs or whatever they do over at Georgia. But
Jesus Christ.
but by the way, you saw why Florida, like Montreal Johnson was the one bright spot on Florida's team. He ran for over 100 yards. So ETN's a really good player, man, but don't expect ETN to kind of have the monster season that I think a lot of people are expecting, because I think Georgia's got like three running back, three deep at running back that can really play. But so yeah, that was my main takeaway from Georgia. I mean, just the different ways it can beat you, and how Carson Beck just needed a half and then he turned it on and was ready to go, and got Malachi Starks can really play the safety. Him and Caleb Downs, talking about two of the best safeties. Them two can really play. And then for Clemson, I'm kind of sick hearing about the whole transfer portal thing. Like it would help if they went in the transfer portal, right? And went out and got stuff. Like that's the way it is now. Like I'm sure they could have used a linebacker or a left guard or whatever. But I mean, we're talking year 2 with Garrett Riley and Cade Klubnik, and you could argue that they regressed. Like I understand they're playing Georgia, but I mean, this is Clemson. This is a team that was the top 3 program from 2014 to 2021. Like, there's not excuse. It's not an excuse that, oh, they were playing Georgia. Like, no, like it's supposed to be you're playing Clemson. Like that's where Clemson should be, and they're not there right now. And I don't think it's as simple as they don't go in the portal and get players. I think it's fundamentally the development of players right now is not where it was when they were at the all-time high. Getting like there's no Justin Ross walking through that door, wide receiver, for example, that they recruited and developed. So, I mean, Cade Klubnik was bad, man, and they couldn't run the ball with Maffa. But yeah, those are my kind of takeaways from the Georgia game.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't really able to watch it because I was at the Purdue game, but I just remember checking the score and being like, "Oh, it's close," and then checking the score and be like, "Oh, Georgia's up a lot."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's about it.
I mean,
That's
a 6-0 halftime. You're looking at yourself and you're like, "Wow, you guys said it. It's gonna be a close game." And then next thing you know, I'm looking at the box score at halftime, and I'm like, "Oh no, like Georgia's just they're gonna turn it up in the second half." And sure enough, they did. I said that Georgia was going to win big, but I want to talk about Clemson for just a second because I agree with Johnny. I have said it multiple times on this podcast. They got to hit the portal. And that is 100% the truth. You're never going to convince me it's not the truth. But here's the thing. I agree with what Johnny said. It's worked in the past of what they've been doing because they've had a quarterback. You look at Miami. Miami's going to be very good this year because they have Cam Ward.
And guess what? They went out and paid him $2 million to come be my American. That's just what it is now.
That's one thing, right? So the quarterback position is a position that you go out and buy. Like if you can and they're available, go out and buy. And if you're a college football player, no matter Clemson's last few years, if you give me a good enough offer, I'll go play at Death Valley. Are you kidding me? Heck yeah! Like. I'm not going to go play quarterback for the Clemson Tigers.
I throw you in there. You're probably better than Cade Klubnik. I'll tell you what.
Right? So here's my thing. I think the point of the story is Clemson was so good because congratulations. It's easy to win football games when you have Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. But now you're in a situation where you got to go get that. Here's the thing. They had Cade Klubnik, a 5-star quarterback, but he didn't pan out. When is it? You got to cut the ties and you got to go buy somebody. That's how college football is. College football is on 2 things now. There's 2 things that control college football. How hard is your schedule going to be? Because that's borderline randomized, right? And 2, are you going to be able to go buy a good college football quarterback that's going to be able to lead you into a national championship berth? And here's the thing. Clemson's not there because they're not willing to go do it. development. It's going to work, but it's not going to work every year. I mean, it's the repetitive cycle. You're not going to be able to bring up guys every year after year, and you're not going to get these 5 stars. Not all 5 stars pan out to be great, but you gotta start moving on. And so here's the thing: moving on for Clemson is going to be getting rid of Dabo, and Dabo is going to leave.
I'll tell you what, Dabo might leave, but Clemson will never fire Dabo. It would take a lot for Clemson to go fire Dabo.
But that's the thing. I think Dabo leaves. I think Dabo does leave because I think he needs a change of scenery. It ain't working at Clemson right now, and you got to stop waiting. Like if you're Dabo, go find another place, go find another job. There are going to be plenty of people that are hiring for you. So
I will say Clemson gets the benefit. Clemson gets what Florida doesn't. Well, Clemson's in the ACC. I mean, so you can write in 8 wins just from being in the ACC. So I mean that might sway things a little bit. And look, it's week 1, so again, that's one of those things with Klubnik and Garrett Riley, the offense coordinator there, year 2, that shouldn't have to be this many bumps in the road. So I mean, we'll see. They play. They don't get Notre Dame this year, which I was disappointed to see, which sucks. I hate it when Louisville plays Notre Dame and not like Clemson personally. But yeah, shout out first of all, Dabo won 11 games with DJ Uyunglele. So just for that, he should get a statue, not the 2 national championships.
Terrible, holy crap.
And it's time to get into Florida State. But we said we'll talk about the winners first. So how about Boston College, man? Bill O'Brien, what do we do? Billy Boy going into Doak.
I forgot he was at Boston College.
Me too. I thought when I saw, first of all, I was on a plane. Shout out Frontier. That delayed me an hour and a half. But I was on a plane coming from Tampa back up here, and I landed. And the first thing I did when I landed is text you guys, and I said, "Holy blank, Florida State got dominated."
Yeah.
And you want to know how Florida State got dominated? The University of Florida State. Which for a time under Bobby Bowden had like 15 straight finishes in the top 5. Held the 21 yards rushing against Boston College at home. Are you kidding me?
Like gave up what are we doing? Gave up 270.
Oh, I was getting to that. I mean, unbelievable. I see the stat line on Instagram as like a random highlight, and it shows DJ Uiagalelei 13 of 30 just randomly throughout the game. I'm like, holy crap. And my mom's texted me, and when she just goes, "We're atrocious," and I was like, yeah.
I'm gonna be honest here. I'm kind of sick and tired of talking about Florida State because that's how bad they are.
I'll tell you what, this is the last time we're gonna talk about Florida State for a little while.
I'm starting to question if they even deserve time on this podcast.
They don't.
Sacred.
I'm sorry, Mama Shields, but like, I'm sick and tired of. You just lost to Georgia Tech at Boston College. Like,
I mean,
like, oh, what's going on?
It doesn't get more cupcakey. It doesn't get more cupcakey.
ACC. I mean, yeah. No, Mama Shields is all with the criticism of Florida State now. I mean, you got Matt Ryan tweeting, going to put the 2 kids to bed. Boston College up 2 scores. This is a good night. I'm like, like what a tweet from Matt Ryan.
DJ had a QBR of 27, right? So that's one thing. Here's the other thing. Johnny, you were talking about it again with the Florida game we were talking about, and you were talking about how Florida just looked disheveled, right? And I was going to get into a point where it borderline looked like it was a Miami home game, the way Florida was acting. And by God, it was the same way for Florida State last night. I was watching that game. When I turned it on, when I saw that the game was close, I turned the game on, and I thought the game was at Boston College genuinely because they were like at the point in the field where I couldn't see the logos. I didn't really pay attention that much. Next thing you know, I'm watching the substitution issue with Florida State. They got to call a timeout. Like just the mishaps. Like they had 12 men on the field at the goal line. Like, and they still scored a touchdown. Like it's like, bro, I was so upset watching that game that I texted you guys. I'm like, what's going on? And Florida State, they're banned. They gotta be banned from this podcast until they like go and do something special.
Until they get above 500, Florida State.
God, or they say, hey DJ, bro.
Yeah,
you're riding
it might be at that point. They got a freshman quarterback.
What are you gonna do if you're Florida State and DJU is getting paid like
probably getting $1 million bucks?
Yeah. You think what are the donors saying right now?
You eat the million. You eat the million, otherwise you're gonna start getting booed.
Yeah, but the donors, they donate all that money to bring him in. Like, what do you do? Like, what are the donors going to keep donating after this?
Oh, no. If I'm DJ, I'm putting that shit in the bank. And I'm telling them, how about you watch my tape at Oregon State? I've been the same quarterback for the past
Yeah.
3 years. It's on you guys. It's talent evaluation. Honestly, look, you look at Florida State, they were a blip in the pan last year. If you can't recruit consistently at a high level, and even in the transfer portal era, you'll have one good year where you have two freak wide receivers, one of them a transfer. You have a freak offensive lineman in the transfer, a freak defensive tackle. Guess what? Jared Verse was a transfer. Like you get all of this into one insane season. And George Travis got hurt, so they didn't make the playoff. It is what it is.
But Florida
They're
State
back into
has,
mediocrity.
but they have the line. Florida State has the defensive line to never have allowed 280 yards rushing from Boston College. They have guys. They have guys that we're going to watch the draft in several months, and we're going to see several defensive tackles being taken by Florida State, right? But it was a mishap by Florida State and everyone over there, and it's like, oh my God, 2 weeks in a row. Like, okay, whatever. You
At
did it.
home.
Who
At
cares?
home.
Home, like I was shocked that when I turned the TV on, I wasn't hearing boos through my screen. Because if I was a Florida State fan and I was at that game, by God, you would have heard me if I was 400 sections away. By the way, also, I'm sick and tired of it. ESPN, they had that game. I don't know who was on the call. I was so bored watching that football game because either the announcers were shocked at what was going on or they're just god awful at their job. But it was a terrible ESPN football game. Just had to also throw that out there. So
Yeah.
It's not good. A lot of bad, man. I'm shocked.
Oh, bad.
We love you, but
Oh, bad.
God, just bad Florida State. And like, I mean, Tanny, you brought up a good point, man. The people that paid DJ that NIL check, I mean, that is looking
They
worse.
voided.
Worse.
They just voided it.
I mean, like, look, first of all, his offense line is not helping him whatsoever. First of all, that Florida State game is going to be on like Roku at 10:25 in the morning, whenever it's on. They're going to take the Roku.
6:30 a.m.
Yeah, I mean that's
beat
how
the
bad
Heat.
it is.
Just get the game done with.
I mean, it's just shocking. I mean, Florida and Florida State, man. You go back to Bobby Bowden and Steve Spurrier. I mean, you're talking about these two. One of these two teams were in the national championship basically every year, and they're going back and forth. In '96, Florida, they play twice because they got to go play again in the national championship. Like that's how good they were, and it's just, I mean, that's
Brutal. Brutal.
I think the Florida Boston College loss is worse than the Florida Miami loss, in my opinion. I mean,
Oh, I agree.
it,
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
it's. I mean, Miami's a top 8 team in my opinion. But
Yeah.
did we miss? Oh, LSU USC. We'll quickly go through this one. We're going a little long as we're amped up for this episode. We're freaking locked in. But USC, man. I mean, Lincoln Riley needed that game, and he went and got it. And shout out, I think you guys correct me if I'm wrong. The USC's new defense coordinator, DeAnthony Lynn, I think that's his name. And talking about a turnaround, and talk about a team. First of all, talk about a team that that actually took the time to prepare and then go into week one in the big game prepared to go in and stop. Because guess what? Garrett Nussmeier can play a little bit of quarterback. He can play. And LSU still, they don't got Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, but that Lacey kid, he can still play on the outside. And they got 3 running backs that are really good. And USC went in there and shut that down. I mean, outside of a few drives, I mean, that USC defense was going. They were blitzing all the time. They're bringing in constant pressure, and they were getting to Nussmeier a lot of the time. And then how about Miller Moss, man? His ball placement. I mean, you look at him, he looks like he should work in finance at Raymond James in Tampa. And he's in there just with the ball placement on some of these passes. I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is big time stuff. Like this is like University of Louisiana State. Like this is like big time defense supposedly. But look, I will say LSU's defense. This is the one game where whatever one of these teams lost, it's not an overreaction because LSU could still win 9 games this year. I think their SEC schedule isn't quite crazy, and their defense. I mean, it didn't take a lot to improve, so their defense has improved from last year. But God, what a win for Lincoln Riley. He needed that, and I'll tell you what, death, taxes, and Lincoln Riley developing a grade A tier quarterback. Because my God, Miller Moss can freaking spin it.
Yeah, I was very impressed with USC. I gotta go out and say this was the favorite game I watched this weekend. I thought it had the most offense, like consistent offense. I know there wasn't a ton of points, but ball was consistently being moved. Plays were being made. 2 one-hand catches out of USC that could be catches of the year. Like I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed with USC so far through one game. And Zachariah Branch, I mean, that dude's gonna eat in the NFL. He is so quick. He's so electric in space. I wasn't really that high on USC coming into to this season, but I really enjoyed watching them play week 1. I think this is a team that I can sit down and watch them play and not be bored of watching them play. I think some of these other teams like, well, Florida State obviously, but Georgia, like Georgia, you know what's going to happen. They're going to run the ball. They're going to beat you in the trenches. USC just has so much skill and they air it out, and that to me is fun to watch. That's college football at its best. So I'm very excited for USC through week 1. Might be an overreaction, but as of now, I'm very excited to watch them play. And a great win for Lincoln Riley. I would agree with you. He needed that win.
He did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a great football game from start to finish. Week 1, we were very lucky with a good week 1 slate and a lot of good games. And I agree. I mean, I picked LSU because I wasn't big on USC. I tell you what, after watching them play defense, they're going to be able to hang in the Big Ten. And so I'm not going to maybe change my opinion on them. I think there's a very good chance that both of these teams still finish middle of the pack in their conference. But at the same time, you watch USC put up a fight on defense, defensively. And, you know, when you play those tough teams, again, as a team, like as a fan of Notre Dame, and you see USC on the schedule, you think, oh, we're going to be able to score a lot of points. And then now they have a defense. And so you hit it, Tanner, you hit it right on the head too. Zachariah Branch, that little guy can fly, and he is fun to watch. He might be like 5'9", right?
Yeah.
Like he's so small, but he can play. So yeah, it's a big win. Again, I don't think it does anything for LSU. I think it was a coin flip game that doesn't hurt either team. It just helps. I tell you what, I was listening to the radio. I think this does a lot for the Big Ten too.
Yeah, it does.
You know,
Big Ten had a good weekend.
You look at the Big Ten versus the SEC now, when it gets to that 9, 10, 11 for getting those bids, that they're going to look at that head-to-head matchup, and that's a big win for the Big Ten. So as a fan of the Big Ten, maybe over the SEC, shout out to USC for getting it done. But at the same time, I will see how that implications have for the 8, 9, 10, 11 spot in the playoff, in several months.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move on to a little NFL talk, but first of all, how about Vandy getting a big win? Vandy over Virginia Tech, baby, anchor down. That's what I'm talking
Electric
about.
ending.
Yeah.
Electric ending.
Talking about
Didn't
SEC.
even know it was possible.
When you come to Vandy, man, they're gonna show you to play some SEC ball. Tell you
They
what,
sure are.
they
sure
know
are.
what to do. They seriously, but I mean, I have Virginia Tech in the playoff, so big
Yeah.
win, big win for Vandy. But anyway, let's go to the NFL. We're gonna just briefly kind of highlight the NFC East here. Top heavy, some could say. I think the Eagles are going to win this division. I'll just be point blank about it. Losing Jason Kelsey obviously hurts. You could say he's the best center to ever play, but adding Saquon just makes their offense so much more dynamic. I mean, who's going to stop inside the 10-yard line with all the weapons they got? They go out and trade for Jahan Dotson. Howie Roseman is one of the best general managers in football, just with this cap manipulation. They re-signed Mulata, they re-signed Dickerson. I mean, they just got guys that just go out there and play hard. But that defense, they lose to Son Reddick. They get the Huff guy from the Jets, who was really good rotationally. But on the other side, I'm blanking who they have on the other side. It's God, I'm blanking. This is bad. But anyway, he is not a world beater. They don't have a guy where you look at it, it's like, yep, that guy's getting you 12 sacks. And I will say they addressed the secondary. They got the Mitchell guy in the draft and DeJean both in the first round. So that's why I like the Eagles. And the Cowboys, I feel like their year was last year. I don't know what you guys thought, that last year was the year to do stuff. I mean, CD just got paid. Dak is reportedly asking for $60 million. I'm not, if Dak's asking that, I'm telling Dak, go walk. We'll figure out quarterback somewhere else. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
Jerry dollars are different, though. I mean,
yeah, that is true. A team that I do like here, I think Washington could be a sneaky playoff team here. We've seen it before, kind of like rookie quarterback we saw with CJ Stroud last year. I think Washington could be a playoff team because you come in and you get Jaden Daniels. And I think Jaden Daniels is going to take care of the ball significantly better than what Sam Howell did a year ago. Sam Howell, high interception guy, threw for a lot of yards, high interception guy. I think Jaden Daniels comes in similar to that CJ Stroud effect and could lead Washington to one of those like last wildcard spots in the NFC, because we saw last year the bottom part of the NFC in the wildcard wasn't completely strong. I mean, really 9 wins could get you there. 8, 9 wins could get you there. And then the Giants, man, any team that has Daniel Jones starting at quarterback, even though I like their GM and I like the other moves that they made, but God, Daniel Jones, whoever paid him, I mean, we said it when it happened. I was like, who the hell gave Daniel Jones 140 million to be bad? But that's kind of my overview. I'll let you guys
Horrendous. I mean,
agree.
to be absolutely horrendous. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with the NFC East, it's clear. I think I was big last year on the Eagles. I was. And this season, you look at this team, you look at the roster, and they got better. And so offensively, they're going to be unstoppable. AJ Brown's still one of the best receivers in the league. Saquon's unreal too. And so I'm kind of excited to watch Saquon in a new system, kind of, get out of New York and go see what he can do in Philly. And Jalen Hurts, I think he's going to have a great year. I really do. I'm big on Philly. I'm big on them for sure in this division, but moving forward in the playoffs, I really think they can make a push because I just think offensively they're up there in terms of the rosters that it's going to be tough to beat. So
Yeah, I would first and foremost like to say the Giants are going to be terrible.
yeah.
I Daniel Jones sucks. He is the worst contract in the NFL. No doubt they're going to suck. So New York Giants bad. Washington Commanders, I could agree with you. I kind of see the potential there for them, but I still think their defense struggles. And that offensive line is going to be so bad. It's going to be no help whatsoever for Jaden Daniels, a rookie quarterback. I think Jaden Daniels has a lot of talent. I don't hate the skill positions they have around him, but with that bad defense and an offensive line that is not going to help out a rookie quarterback, I have a hard time seeing the Commanders make the playoffs. I kind of see the reasoning for maybe having them in the hunt. I wouldn't be surprised. I just don't see them getting over that hump, making the playoffs. I think the future, the future is definitely like the foundation. It's definitely getting laid down there in Washington. It's time to start getting some pieces in the trenches in years moving forward because they're fine elsewhere. I would agree. I don't see the Cowboys winning this division. Dak had a good year last year. That means we're getting bad Dak this year. Their defense, they lost a lot of weapons on that defense. They lost some line pieces. Tony Pollard's a big loss. Zeke's getting old. He's back in Dallas. I'm sure Dallas is happy to have him back. I'm sure he's glad to be back in Dallas. But are we really confident in Zeke being a bell cow running back in 2024? Because I'm not. So Cowboys, I still think they're good. 9-10 wins. Can they get a wild card? Probably. I'm not 100% confident in them getting a wild card, but I can tell you right now they're not gonna beat out the Eagles for this division. I know they had some struggles late last season, but off season toss day. They were an elite team the year before. They were for about 12 weeks last year. I think they just needed a reset this season, got better. And I do think the Eagles are going to be back in that Super Bowl conversation this year. And I have them winning the
Yeah.
NFC East.
I also love in fantasy football. I love drafting Ezekiel Elliott in the 13th round.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there every time I get ready to draft him. Like, am I tweaking, or did the Cowboys not lose Tony Pollard? Did they get somebody that I just forgot about, or is Zeke still an RB1 on a team that, yes, they're not going to probably win the NFC East, but they're going to be competitive. So yeah, feed me Ezekiel Elliott in the 13th round of fantasy football.
Hey, don't forget Dalvin Cook's a member of the Cowboys now. That's fun. But
Oh yeah, that's also true. I kind of
well, they just signed him. That's
Okay.
that's nothing significant.
Still not worried about it.
Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna cut it there. Thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, subscribe. I always forget to say it at the beginning, and I need to start saying it at the beginning in case new people watch. It's hard to watch all the way to the end. But if you're new, subscribe, leave a like, send it to someone. Jam-packed episode. We're gonna try to come back on Friday for another prediction episode. But until then, we'll see you then.
Peace.
See ya.